Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and it feels like Trophy Day now was almost a lifetime ago. The last kind of 24, 48 hours. It's been intense online being a Celtic fan. It's all Ange Postecoglou at Spurs. It's all about the manager situation and the preparation and the eve of the cup final. So I was hoping we'd be getting on the flagship podcast today to get some proper title celebrations on the go, and maybe looking forward to the cup final, talking about trebles and planning for next season. But this week, guys, we are joined to get stuck into all of that good stuff at the beginning. First of all, for the first time on the channel, Craig from the Celts are here, the guru, the number one man that is. So, Craig, thanks a lot for joining us, mate.
No worries, glad to be here, even though I'm just caveating it now by saying I've had 3 hours sleep and I have a 6-month-old baby in the house. So if I'm disrupted at any point, it's because of that.
No problem at all, mate. And thanks a lot for coming on. It's great to see you. And back on as well, we've got Aaron. Aaron, great to see you, mate.
It's good to be back, aye. Good to see you too.
Aye, pleasure. And yeah, guys, I was just saying how long I couldn't help but just address the elephant in the room right off the bat for anyone joining us. But the last kind of, I don't know how long it's been. It feels like an eternity to me. But the last couple of days, you know, it's Ange Postecoglou, the rumor mills, the press conferences coming out. How you coping? What you thinking? What you feeling?
I was ready to put on James Blunt this morning and start singing "Goodbye, My Lover" down down the phone to people. But my head's kind of all over the place with it. I'm trying to kind of second guess everything Angie's saying, everything I'm seeing on Twitter. It's a bit of a kind of whirlwind. We went from like about to go and hopefully celebrate a treble to go, is our manager going to be here next season? Just everything thrown up there. So it's just a bit all over the place. My head's all over the place, and I'm just trying to kind of sort out my thoughts at the minute. So I thought coming on the podcast today to make my debut was probably the best time to do it, even though I would have rather waited until after we had a treble in the bag.
Yeah, for sure. What about yourself, Aaron?
It started off this morning pretty gutting when the Sun came out and that headline that kind of was quite definitive, Ange's away. Now we deep dive into it and they were telling us stuff we already knew, that they approached Ange yet and that they were going to wait until at least Sunday before they did. And then Ange came out his press conference today and he didn't deny it, but at the same time he didn't really say it was going to happen. He never gave much away in typical Ange fashion. So I would say I've kind of digested it a wee bit now, and better spirits than what I was when the news broke this morning.
Yeah, I've been tossing and turning between it all. I think ultimately now you're maybe getting to that point of acceptance with it, right? But like, I think for me, maybe what we're all kind of doing a little bit is we're all at that kind of crossroads of put yourself in the man's shoes or try and imagine how he's thinking and all the rest of it. And of course, all the stuff that I think everyone's probably spoke about at this point is on offer potentially in terms of infrastructure, resources, you know, money and everything else. That's obviously there. But Ange, we've seen him since the time he's been here, and we've seen in his career as an ambitious guy, you know, and he sets plans out and he's all about, you know, it's more than football. It's about the people and it's about the team and all that kind of stuff, you know. He's built a full squad with us now, you know, and you kind of hang on to the little bit of hope that he wants to see that through, give it another crack at the group stages with us again next year. And probably the last little thing I would kind of say on like how I've been thinking about it over the last first couple of days, all the rumors that are going around and everything is like, is Ange really that in that much of a hurry? You know, there's a lot of people thinking like this is, it's never, it's Tottenham or nothing. But, you know, like whenever the jobs do come up, if Man City, if Arsenal, if those jobs came up, I think he would be in the frame. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think, you know, he's, you know, a lot of people worry that, or a lot of people think that he's worrying, oh, this might be my only chance. But he might not be thinking like that. So I'm not sure that's the case.
That's where I disagree with you. He is 57 years old, and I do think you look down south, teams aren't going for managers who are approaching their 60s. They're going for typically those who are aged at around about 40 to 50. So Ange is probably considered as old by some of these clubs. And Tottenham's a big six club, whether like it or not. In the grand scheme of things, you're a big club, especially in England. So it's a big opportunity for Ange, and it's not a usual. You never see a manager in Scotland move down to a big six. It's not a mid-table club at best. So he's probably looking at that, thinking this might be the biggest opportunity I might get, even if he does well with Celtic next season in Europe.
Yeah, I'm kind of on this lines as Aaron. Sorry, Quinny. I don't think Ange's seen this job coming up. That's why he's been kind of like he could say the things about how much he loves Celtic. And you'll be surprised how long I'm going to be here for, etc. I don't think he's seen this coming. This is a curveball for him, and he's having to seriously consider it. I don't think Man City's going to come calling in a year's time if he wins another treble or gets to like a Europa Conference League final. I just don't see that happening. From a case of like getting into a top 6 EPL club, I think this could be his one and only opportunity. And if I'm in his shoes, if all things being equal, and if you speak to Daniel Levy and everything's fine and you're happy with everything, you go. You know what I mean? And this me as a Celtic fan, I don't want him to go ever. But from his perspective, I do think that it is a kind of bit of now or never.
I could imagine Ange taking the phone call from Daniel Levy and saying, "Aye, no bother, mate. I'll do it for 10 million quid a year." And then he goes, "Okay."
That's like
it's going to be mental money.
Kyle at Rangers, when he went for to sign for Rangers, he went in with a pure ridiculous figure, thinking it was like they'd kind of meet him halfway or something, and they went, "Aye, no worries," and like, what?
Exactly. I had that wee kind of daydream this morning when I seen all the articles that you were talking about earlier, Aaron, and stuff like that coming out. That was a wee skit that been on in my mind. But I find it quite interesting that you both categorically go against that, because I think like, elite coaching now and elite football is so much about style of play, philosophy, etc., etc. And these teams that, the teams I threw out there is just examples, but there's plenty of them out there now. They play a brand of football, and when, if the Man City job comes up, Mourinho's not linked to it, Conte is not linked to it, etc., etc. There's only certain managers that will go to certain teams, let's say, and who knows what other teams may come his way in the future. Is kind of, if he's kind of looking at it, and that's kind of one of the shreds I hope I'm hanging on to through all this, is that he backs himself to his reputation at Celtic's going nowhere. The reputation that's built himself to get linked to this job isn't changing. He's going to win a treble probably next year if we carry on the way we're going. We're super at the moment. We've got a great squad. We're built to kill. He only stands to enhance his situation with the Champions League, you would think, and if a team that's more suited to his style, like I said, I think he would be in the frame. I don't think he would necessarily get all these jobs, but I don't think this is the only opportunity that can come his way. I've seen there's tons of great stuff on Twitter now from Celtic fans trying to unearth gems of what he's thinking. And I've seen a great one, and it was somebody subtitled interviews he's done in Greek. And he's like, I don't know if you've watched it, you caught the tweet somewhere. I forget who it was that tweeted it to give them credit. But he talks proper Greek, So I don't think even going abroad at some point in the guy's career would be, obviously he's been in Japan previously. I don't think that would be completely off the table. And the last thing I would say to come back at you both almost with one kind of comment is Pellegrini was given the Man City job age 60 after being Malaga manager. So like style of football and philosophy for those teams that have it. The problem with Tottenham, and probably the problem we have as Celtic at the moment, is that they're trying to make one, and they've just hired a guy that's maybe going to have that intention, and maybe they're then looking for the architect to go and do it. So, that's maybe a bit of the problem we've got on our hands, is maybe it's that blank canvas element that he's had with us, but on that supreme scale.
Yep. Yeah. I think the idea of, for Ange, the idea of going down there with a big budget and basically having a hit at the Premier League next season with no distractions of Europe with Spurs just to rebuild them. I mean, it's like Football Manager stuff, is it? Here's like £200 million, go and build a team and like see what you can do, kind of thing. Obviously, the drawbacks to the job are Tottenham fans are so demanding, even though they don't tend to win things that often. What was the last thing they won? Was it the League Cup 15 years ago or something like that?
Yep. Alan Hunt was in the team.
Forgot he played for them. They're so demanding, and at the same time, they don't know who Ange is, and it's a bit like obviously when he came to Celtic, it's like he needs to hit the ground running or he's in trouble. It'd be the same there, because like they're happy to disregard managers like Mourinho and Conte, like who have got like great reputations in the game, so they're not going to think twice about turning on Ange if he doesn't win his first 5 games or something like that, and then it could like turn nasty pretty quickly. And the other thing I would say about Ange is he's built Celtic from scratch, as you said, his teams from scratch. He's into the Champions League next season. Would he regret not taking the Spurs job and then not getting a Premier League job in the future, or would he regret leaving now and then not seeing through this kind of project he has with Celtic. And I think that's the only thing I'm kind of clinging to now is his project at Celtic and his kind of affinity with the club, with the fans, might make him think twice about it.
You're looking at Spurs as well. They've went from Mourinho to Conte, who are both very defensive managers who don't want to play the free-flowing, fluid attacking football that Ange Postecoglou plays. So they're having to find a new manager, and like you said, Quinny, a new philosophy, a new way of playing football. And from that way, the appointment for that, from that perspective, doesn't make sense for me. And if you're Ange Postecoglou looking in, you need to rebuild that full squad because that's built to sort of defensive style of play. So having to gut that, move players on, and bring players in. In Scotland, that was a tough task, but you're with Celtic, so it was always going to be easier than with Tottenham, who've missed out on European places, who pressures immediately on to get back at the table in a league that middle part is very, very competitive.
Yeah. I think I was close to saying this kind of earlier on I think Celtic fans I think he's definitely considering it and stuff like that. And like I said kind of earlier on, I'm kind of displaying my last kind of ounces of hope that I'm holding out here at the moment. But with a lot of the stuff, the way it feels like it's kind of bubbling along, it does feel like it's kind of going to happen. And I don't know, I'm just always I'm forever burned with if Rodgers can leave for Leicester, then this guy could leave for Spurs. I think it's more than his odds on at the bookies. I think that's probably the easiest way of succinctly saying what I'm getting at here. But I do hold out shreds of hope that it's not it's maybe not going to happen. But I do think with Tottenham and the amount of resources that they have, if they do, with them not being in Europe next year, that could be if he's given, and you're quite right, Aaron, to say who knows what the fans will give him, right? But if the club could guarantee him a season without any hassle or anything like that, a free crack to just get back into the top six or whatever it is, transfer guys in and out and do that kind of job, like we've maybe seen with some other Premier League clubs like Ten Hag at Man United this season and whatever, then maybe that's there for him. So it's a funny one because when we've seen Rodgers go, he wanted the 6 months with Leicester to run into the season and then go on in a fresh start. So it's all about how these projects are kind of held out, which is my worry. Because if it's held out the way that it would be the most appealing, then that's when I think we should be worried about losing him. But if there's anything missing from that puzzle, I think he's old and wise enough to go, the grass isn't always greener, and if this guy could sack me in 2 months and then blah, blah, whatever. So yeah, it's a funny one.
Hi, so I'm the same as you. I'm kind of resigned to losing them, but not really. That's where I'm at the moment. So it's I'm wanting to look forward to the final, and it's hard to look forward to the final now. I think once obviously we're in the stadium and the crowd gets going and stuff like that, it'll be fine. But right now, there's just absolutely no build up to the final other than where's Ange going to be past the final. Which is disappointing because the fact that we're going for our 8th treble in our history, which is I'm told a world record. I've not done the fact checking myself. Maybe Rangers can tell us because they're good at world records. But it's just a bit strange coming into a cup final week going for a treble, and this is all we're talking about. And obviously the papers are going to make the most of what they're hearing, as Aaron said as well about the article that kind of said the exclusive Ange leaving next week or whatever. The article didn't live up to the headline as such, but then all the other media outlets have jumped on this and they're kind of going with it. I seen ESPN talking about how Ange can work for nothing because he's in a 12-month rolling contract, which they don't understand what a 12-month rolling contract is if they think he can leave for nothing. Just people that don't know, it's every day Ange Postecoglou wakes up, he's got 12 months on his Celtic deal, so it's not like he'd be going for nothing. Spurs will have to pay something for him. So I'm pessimistic, but at the same time, I don't know if you've ever watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Big Terry Crews in it. He's in episode. He's in denial. That's where I'm. I'm just blissfully just kind of looking up at this guy. I'm in denial until such times as Stephen McGowan or the club come out and say he's away. Then I'm just going to go, nah, he's fine. He's staying.
I'm with you. Let's do it.
It's also worth noting that ESPN article as well did say that the club are going to offer Postecoglou a long-term contract with better terms.
I've got no confidence in them whatsoever knowing anything. I think that's just a case of, well, of course they're going to offer him a deal if they want him to stay rather than knowing anything, because the guy that wrote, I've never seen him write about anything about Celtic in my life. I think they're just kind of jumping on the bandwagon more for the Spurs end of things rather than the Celtic end of things. So I'd be surprised if they knew anything that was happening at Celtic.
Yeah. For all we know, he has signed a contract for that meeting with Dermot Desmond. You know, like, is there any like timeline on when these things like have to become public information? I don't know. But
I don't think a manager's contract needs to be like put through. Now, obviously, like London Stock Exchange, when something big happens, they put it through. I don't think a manager's like contract comes into that. And to be fair, if he had signed a contract, there's absolutely no reason for his Ange to keep his on like hanging on a string now. Like with that press conference that he's had today,
fair.
he could have just said, "Right, everybody, calm down." He's not. So, which suggests to me there is definitely, obviously, something in it. It's not just conjecture. Tottenham are interested. He might be interested in Tottenham, but maybe they've not had the proper conversations yet, and maybe that is because Ange is true to his word and he's waiting until after the final, because I do believe him. Now you hear players saying, "Oh, we're just focused on the next game," and you go, "Aye, so you're focused on this." I do believe that Ange is actually focused on the cup final. I've no doubt about that. There's no, I'm looking over my shoulder to Tottenham. He wants to win this treble. And I think that's what he is like kind of aiming for the now. And then after that, he's going to probably sit down and have that conversation. And that is why he's not keeping us on strings, but he's got nothing to tell us. You know what I mean? He's got nothing good to tell us. He's got nothing bad to tell us. So he's just going to kind of hold us at a distance until such times as he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. That sounds about right. It sounds very on character, you know, so I could definitely see that being the thing, because like he doesn't take anything for granted. You know, he will want to seal the deal, get the trophy in the cabinet, cannot take Inverness lightly, you know, because it's a cup final for them as well, you know, and it's 11 v 11 at the end of the day, and there's a referee in the middle that we'll never forget about, you know, their presence. I don't know if anyone watched the Europa League final this week, but there was a wee bit of karma back for Jose for 20 years ago, almost to the day, probably. Since we were brutally robbed off him. So, referees and all that will play their part also. So, I don't think the big man will be taking his eye off the ball. We're seeing today, but out the press conference, it was like, it's all Ange, it's all, you know, Spurs and futures and all that stuff. But there's a lot of news coming out as well. Like post-trophy day, we've seen some injuries on the last game, 5-0 victory against Aberdeen. Before the celebrations happened, you know, Alistair Johnson didn't finish the game. Kyogo didn't finish the game through injury substitutes. But we're starting to get some news coming through for the final as well. So maybe a wee bit of a different look Celtic as well, eh?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping. Well, Aaron said before we came on live there that Alistair Johnson's fit, so I think that totally changes the team. Like, no disrespect to Anthony Ralston, but he has not been on it at all since he's came back into the side. I don't know if that's just lack of game time, lack of confidence, because like last season he did really well, kind of beyond anybody's expectations. Everybody's thinking like he's a good number 2 to Juranovic and then Johnston, but he just looked out of place in that team, and like he made us worse. As soon as Johnston came in at the weekend there, the team just seemed a lot more livelier. Johnston, like you could see him organising the defence better. Awata looked more comfortable. Starfelt looked more comfortable, and we just kind of flowed that bit better. So Johnston looks like he's on for the final, which is great news. Awata looks like he's going to start in the final as well, and he's not done much in the way of like, has he scored for us yet? Actually, I don't think he has. No, I've always like ever since Pierre Doumbé scored in the cup final 1 year. I can't remember what that year that was. I'm always kind of looking for a random goal scorer, and I would say Awata scoring a goal in the cup final would be kind of fun to see. But I want to start in defence as well. We know we've been told that Kyogo has been training himself all week. But Kyogo's character and Ange's character, I would say they're probably, unless his legs fell off, then he'll probably start the game and he'll take a chance. He'll roll the dice because he's got a full summer to kind of rehab if anything goes wrong. The only thing I would say against that is Kyogo might want to keep himself fit for Japan, because they've got the Kirin Cup in like a month's time or something, like maybe less than that. So like he's just been called up. So, but I do expect Kyogo to start. Midfield the same, and the only kind of real change from Saturday, the Aberdeen game, would be Maeda coming back in after suspension.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. And I think you're talking about Ralston there. I think that was just a purple patch he had last season. It was nothing more than that. He's been at the start of the season as well with a few games. He's been well off it. And as you say, when he came back from injury there, he was well off it again. So I wonder if that's one of the areas Ange or whoever's in charge in the summer will look to add to and maybe move Ralston on.
Fair enough. I think Ralston's definitely been off the boil, and Johnson coming in was definitely he's definitely a markable difference on the back four, even without having Carter Vickers there. But yeah, I kind of hold out a bit of hope for Ralston. The job that he's done in the time that we've had Alistair Johnson, I think we can rely on Ralston to continue to do that job for the team. Fill in against players when he's injured or he carries a suspension. He being Alistair Johnson, Ralston can fill in. I think in that job when he has had his purple patch, it was really fighting to become number one, and maybe he kind of knows now that's never really going to happen. So maybe he's I don't know, maybe he's lost a bit of the ghost in that sense. I don't really know what the saying is, but I think there's maybe a bit of that going on.
I think it's a confidence. It's definitely a confidence thing because we know he can be a better player. He definitely hit a purple patch last season, but he's better than what he showed in the last few games for us. But if we want to move to the next level, say Ange does stay here and he wants to move to the next level, like is Anthony Ralston, if Alistair Johnson gets injured again, is Anthony Ralston playing the group stage of the Champions League what you want? Probably not. As much as he likes to laugh in Neymar's face if when he come up against Neymar, I always laugh at that picture because I think we were like 4-0 down at the time, and people posted it like it was a victory for Ralston and Celtic. But no, I don't think like in the SPFL, you're absolutely right, Quinny. He could definitely still do a job for us as long as he's got his eye on the prize. But in general, if we want to kind of like level up, as Ange was talking about before this Spurs stuff happened, then I think Ralston would kind of fall by the wayside in that kind of like shake up.
He did have a little Instagram post. I don't know if you've seen it. It was like a picture of him and his daughter walking down the tunnel.
Yeah, I seen this. What was going on? Like, that is a bit of a weird one to take if you're staying, because or maybe they just wanted that kind of sentimental thing to put on their walls. I don't know, but that was kind of a weird one. But I think people like on Twitter especially just read into a lot of these things and they want to look for that and go, I told you so, I thought that was going to happen. So, but if he did go, he'd go with everybody's kind of best wishes. But like, I don't see him going in the next 6 months at least anyway. But we'll wait and see. But I know Celtic are looking for a left back, but I don't think they're necessarily looking for another right back at the moment. So
interesting.
They're looking to level up left back, and obviously you've got Greg Taylor as well now. Like that's a different story because if you have a left back that becomes first team, and I don't have any names. It comes like looking for a kind of Alistair Johnson type on the left hand side, and then you've got Greg Taylor there as well. Now I've got no problem with Greg Taylor going in the group stage of the Champions League if another left back gets injured. So I think that's a position we do need to kind of strengthen in the summer. So I think Ralston is safe for the moment.
Yeah, interesting. So I think I don't know. I thought we could see Bernabei is probably out of his depth in this team under Ange, certainly anyway. But then with the kind of little appearance he got in one of the last games, I forget which one it was, he actually did pretty well. And the manager seemed to say some comments that kind of renewed faith in him. And I thought, okay, maybe we're going to give Bernabei another shot. But I find it quite pleasing to hear that we're trying to get a better left back. But I do wonder if there's maybe other places we could maybe get a player in first that maybe we would need it more than left back, since we do have Taylor there. But I suppose, I suppose we're thinking about European level. Perhaps we need somebody okay. That's interesting. Overall, exciting.
So, who do you think? What kind of position, if you were to pick a position right now, Quinny, like we need to strengthen right now for the Champions League? What would it be?
Proper flair, like a number 10, proper flair. Kind of, maybe with the system we've got currently under Ange, you need to be a wide player in that kind of mode. But I think we need someone with magic. We need to be buying somebody now that has real creative abilities, because in the games, particularly over the last kind of hurdle of the season, where we have struggled to get up before the Aberdeen game, to get some of the goals that we're used to scoring, is because once you're like a team like ours that are very philosophy and shape driven, and we've got our own unique style of putting the midfielder goes here and the left back goes there. Once you've got enough sample size there, you can watch enough video footage and you can train a defensive shape to at least make sure there's no obvious exposure there. And then those situations is when you need Rio, is when you need Jota, is when you need O'Reilly when he's been doing it. The guys that really go up a gear and work between the lines and make something happen. And, you know, outside the guys I just named there, we don't really have anyone in the team really capable of doing that. Like Maeda and Kyogo don't go by people and take people out the game. Abada can kind of do that with enough space around them. But particularly in midfield, you know, Rio does it, but Rio does it in a kind of different way from what I think we're lacking. But I think we need somebody that can take the ball in a tight space, dribble, beat a man, see the pass, whether it is maybe to a wide player or a forward. But we need a real flair attacking player. I don't really care what position they play in, to be quite honest with you. But I think in the central area is where it's missing.
Yeah, I would go along with that. I wouldn't say that's my first port of call. Like I go to and from wanting to keep Joe Hart in goals for the Champions League to go and maybe we need a better goalkeeper if we're going to actually compete. And I think that's as important as what you're saying is like an attacking flair player, because how many times last season were we doing well in games and then like I'm not saying Joe Hart was at fault for a lot of the goals or stuff, but like maybe like a better keeper could have like, just gave you that edge, made that save at the vital time, kept it 0-0 and Celtic could keep going. I think looking forward, we definitely need to look at a goalkeeper that's going to, like a Fraser Foster, that's going to give you going to actually win you points. And I don't think Joe Hart's a great shot stopper. He could still play in the SPFL for his next season, I think. But in general, I think it is time for a new goalkeeper. Where that comes from, I don't know, because we see with Barkas, if you pick up a bad goalkeeper, it can absolutely ruin your season. So I don't know where Celtic are going to find it. It feels like we're going into a treble winning weekend potentially, and we're discussing dismantling the squad and maybe the manager going. It's all a bit surreal. Joe Hart, I love Joe Hart, his personality, and I think people get offended when you kind of criticise him or like say, oh, maybe we should be looking at somebody else, because he has been good for us like on the field and off it. And there's nothing stopping him from still being that kind of presence off the field if we were to bring in another goalkeeper. But I definitely think we could benefit from it in the Champions League.
Yeah, and I think Joe Hart was also brought in to add experience to the team, and at the time made that experience. But then looking at that team, most of them have won 2 titles and 2 League Cups, and they're looking to win their first Scottish Cup, but have got experience in the Champions League. You're now looking to go and add a keeper who, like you says, will go and win points. And Joe Hart will probably, he's in the 12th of his career, he'll admit that himself. But if you can get him around the table, he's only got a year left in his deal, you can maybe work out an arrangement, maybe that's a cup goalkeeper or whatever, but I think he's worth keeping around. But I do think there's better options out there for us especially for Champions League.
I do think goalkeepers, it's the one that's never going to go away when your goalkeeper's over the age of 35, regardless of how good they are anyway. So I think definitely goalkeeper is one that would definitely be high on the priority list. There's probably a bunch of people shouting at the podcast now about a defensive kind of holding midfielder, particularly if we are going to see Iwata continue to forge some sort of career in defence for us. But I do think, like with Iwata, maybe in Champions League we could see him maybe play midfield if it is a team that maybe would need to win the ball in midfield more against or whatever. But I do think there is maybe still the need for that in midfield, depending on who you're going to cut out. So if we're going to add a left back on top of what we've got now, a goalkeeper and a couple of mids or whatever, there's a bit of shopping to be done, and it's and again, all this is before the cup final. Still, it feels like all the narrative of everything that's going on is really just thrusted us right into summer mode and right into transfer window mode and off season situation, and we still have this. It's kind of hard to stay focused on, isn't it? This cup final.
Yeah, I think it's to do with as well, and like no disrespect to Inverness, because it is Inverness, I think people are looking past it and think we've already won it, which is absolutely not the right kind of attitude to have. And like obviously we're talking about past the cup final, and we shouldn't be, because as you said earlier, anything can happen. That means something stupid could happen. Celtic get a man sent off, VAR penalties, they could bring back handballs again, since like Rangers have stopped playing for this season. So lots of stuff can happen. So I think a lot of people are just kind of taking it for granted that the cup final will take care of itself. And that's why we're kind of talking about this. Obviously the Ange stuff you can't ignore. But the rest of the transfer stuff, obviously we've got into it a wee bit, but probably should be left until next week at the very least. But for the cup final, I think that, with all due respect to Inverness, I think we will win, but I'm not taking it 100% for granted. I'm an eternal pessimist, so my glass half empty kind of guy, or quarter empty sometimes.
How do you feel about the final, Aaron, going into it? Obviously, I think we're all expecting a victory, but yeah, how are you thinking coming into it?
With all due respect to Inverness, I'm quite confident going into it. I do think if we play like we did on Saturday there, I do think we'll leave with a 4 or 5, maybe even 6 goals.
6.
But you know, they finished 6th, I think, in the championship, so it's like 18 teams difference, which it's 89. But they've not played in 28 days. They've had a few bounce matches, but it's not the same as playing a high intensity match at Hampden. Then they've also got another part of me, which is a bit like, well, this is a final for them. They're going to be full of confidence. It's another match. Anything can happen. We see it in cup games all the time, upsets. How many times have we saw it with Celtic? But I do feel quite confident heading into this one.
Yeah. I would like to see, hopefully, some of the cameos we've started to see in the season, some of them actually get some significant minutes. Like, I was really impressed with Summers and his little cameo that he made at the weekend. I thought there's a nice little sequence that probably came out on TV pretty nice as well, but he got right in amongst play for a minute or so, you know, like getting amongst passes and hustling the opposition, tackling and stuff, you know. So I would like to see, I would definitely like to see Summers and Vata maybe get a few more minutes than the cameos they've had up to this point. I think your predicted 11 earlier, Craig's probably, but yeah, it's probably what's going to land, isn't it, really? And it's just a case then of, I think we probably could get a lot of goals as well. I think the first 15 minutes is crucial to the game. Like, I think the first 15 minutes, if we score 1 or 2, you know, like, then it could, any of those score predictions that Aaron you've got, buddy, I think any of them could be coming in if that happens, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I think, you know, we had the trophy day celebrations, and I managed to get myself into Merchant City as well. I've got some footage that'll probably be kicking around the internet somewhere at some point. And it was like a proper. No, but I was there. I was there at that bus stop. I must have missed that happening because there was no glass on the floor at that point. But it was proper party celebrations for getting the league over the line and all the rest of it. And I think that maybe plays a little bit into that this is the after party almost, you know, like this is like the cup final win for Ness now. It's like there'll be another little party, I'm sure, next weekend. The weather will be great, I'm sure. And if it is a great result, everyone's going to go out and have a great time. But we have set such a high bar with that trophy day celebration already. So I'm not too sure it will be quite at those levels again, but I'm sure everyone will have a great time with it.
Yeah, well, Celtic have put up a stage outside the Celtic Way, and they put the message out basically saying we're not expecting to win. We're just saying if we do win, we'll get stuff. So obviously, because, you know, like, it's when I remember seeing the double treble bus before we'd won the double treble, and like all the hoops, we did it again. I meant, see if you lose this final, that picture's going to be everywhere. But so they've done the right thing. They put the message out saying this is what's happening. So they're basically just ushering people to the Celtic Way, which is obviously just a walk from Hampden. So that's will be my plans if we do win on Saturday night. I can wander over to Hampden and see what's happening. There'll probably be plenty of pyro. No bus stops being harmed because there's none round about. And it should be a good time. I was on the Celtic Way for the league celebration when we clinched it at Tynecastle. I went to the Kerrydale suite beforehand. Was it the Kerrydale suite? I think it was. And then kind of came out and we just had the party. I was in good spirits. I missed the Trongate stuff last weekend. It was my anniversary here as well. So we had a truck and a cardboard cutout of Big Ange to celebrate, which will be swiftly getting hooked. And if he leaves in the summer, I stick it in the bin. We'll put a funeral on for him or something. I'm expecting some good scenes at Celtic Park if we do win it. But I'm a wee bit partied out at the moment. I'm trying to kind of calm things down, but it seems like we're winning something every week that you need to celebrate.
As well, when it's good weather, it just makes it all the easier, you know, as well, because we don't get good weather that often. So when they coincide like this, it feels rude not to take advantage and have a good time. And and celebrate the victories when they come, So I'm probably looking forward to it in that respect as well. I hope everyone has a good time that kind of goes into it. And then once we do get past the cup final, guys, I know we're trying our best to be respectful to the opposition, the competition, the club, and everything else in between. But then after the cup final, it is the abyss of the summer transfer window. Thereafter, there's no need to avoid it anymore. We will then be in it. We've had a wee kind of synopsis, I suppose, of maybe some of the problem spots in the team or whatever. But realistically, what are our expectations for the transfer window? How busy will we be? Will there be that much money slushing around in or out?
I think you'll see.
Sorry, what you going?
I
Sorry,
think we'll see a few exits. I think we will see a bad leave. I think O'Reilly. There'll definitely be rumours about him. He might leave. He might not. I do think he might get a few, maybe for Starfelt. Maybe I'm thinking if he wants to head down south. Coming in the way you'd expect everyone that leaves to be replaced, but I also would like to see some quality added to the squad and to the starting 11. But I don't expect us to be too busy or to have too hectic a summer. Hopefully not anyway.
I think it all depends on who goes out, and I think we're kidding ourselves on if we don't think one of our big players is going to go. No, don't know who that's going to be, but there's going to be plenty of interest. And yeah, like you said, Starfelt, you're looking at guys that are 27, 28, and they want to stick around. They want a bigger contract with Celtic, or they're going to do what Juranovic did and like head somewhere else, head to a top 5 league. So like it all depends on the who goes out. Is how busy we are, I think, because obviously we'll need to replace these guys. Now, like if everything stayed as it was, then like the positions we've spoken about already, maybe that's where you add quality to. But like you've got Kyogo. I was on the Celtic Underground podcast. He said some of his agent was talking to German teams in the last couple of months and stuff like that. So does Kyogo want to move this summer just to get that big contract, that big payday, play in a better league? If that's the case, then you need to go out and get yourself an absolutely a goal scoring striker straight off of the bat. I'm not pushing Kyogo out the door. Don't shout at me. There's no proper rumours or anything to say that that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. And Ange said that's a possibility. He's expecting to lose one of his big players. That's kind of the nature of the beast at Celtic. So I'm kind of holding my breath in that respect to see who it's going to be. Because Celtic are not going to let everybody go, but they are going to let people go that don't want to be there anymore, as we've seen with Yakimakis and Juranovic. After the debacle, we're kind of keeping Eddie for a season more than we should have, and the likes of Christie and whoever else. We're not going to do that again, for the foreseeable future anyway. So we're either going to tie a couple of these guys to big deals, or they're probably going to go and look elsewhere. So that's how busy we'll be, is just like how much they want to loosen the purse strings for these guys. We've got the money, we've got the Champions League money, we know it's coming in. We might have money for Kieran Tierney coming in as well, a percentage of his sell-on. Frimpong as well, we've got a percentage of his sell-on if he goes, and I expect him to go. I don't know if you've heard anything about that, Quinny, because you're kind of tuned into that more than but he seems to be a hot commodity.
He's he's definitely well sought after, Frimpong. But I actually was talking to some friends yesterday, and if you see Frimpong's Twitter, his kind of end of season message is very much we're just getting started, Leverkusen kind of vibes. So they just appointed Xabi Alonso as manager halfway through the season. They got to the Conference League final. What did they do? They got to a final and they lost. I forgot what's happened now. But anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he does stick out for another season, but whenever he does move, again, we're talking about styles of play and all the rest of it. The way you can get Frimpong playing right back in some of these teams at top end of European football is he's going to have it, as long as he's fit, he's going to have admirers, no problem, for the next couple of years.
Yeah. So just cashing in and stuff like that, obviously, it just depends how much money we do have. Also, it depends on the manager we do have.
Marcus will be going. That's almost confirmed. I see lots of rumours of people saying, like in Holland, it's a done. He's going somewhere for some decent money already. Utrecht says we can't touch the wages or the fee that's going.
Yeah,
and that's about a couple of months old. That's not news, but
I mean that's good. But that's business for Celtic, to be honest with you, because that's what they wanted. They wanted them. They had no intention of kind of rehabbing them and bringing them back. It was just rehabbing them so we could get something for them. Because if we tried to sell him last season, it would just not have happened. So he's actually done well. I've been keeping an eye on him in Holland, and he's actually done well for the most part. Like every time I put out like a clip of him saving a shot or something like that, people are going, what's going on here? But he's done no bad. So if we get money back for him as well, then that's great. I don't think we're going to get any money for a Yeti. I think he'll be away as well, only if somebody comes in for him, mind you, because he's sitting on a decent wage, so he's not going to move unless Celtic move him on. And even at that, is he going to get the wages he's on at Celtic? Probably not. So Celtic will probably need to give him a nice wee handshake on the way out. So there's all that kind of stuff to weigh up. But I've never liked transfer season. I'm not a big fan of all the kind of the rumours and the news, even though like I'm covering the stuff on the site, it just becomes nauseating and stress flip points and stuff like that. I want to fast forward to August again and just go, right, what's our squad? Let's go again.
It's quite repetitive as well with endless rumours, which 90% of them won't bear any fruit. They're all just made up sort of thing.
Yeah. Last season we had Edward Mishu, we had Vinicius Souza, we had Ko Itakura, we had Alex Collado, we had so many interesting and exotic links, and there's a few of them knocking around already. The Dutch centre-back people seem quite married to the idea of him. But again, who knows how far it'll go. But I hope we're quite active this summer, and I hope it's a kind of quality over quantity approach from the club. Maybe if we do bring in, it's like, if we are spending just to say a number, 20 million, let's spend it on 3 guys rather than 8 this time, and get in some actual. So again, part of the reason I mentioned the Flair kind of player earlier on, or profile, is I think that we are missing, and I know O'Reilly's pretty good at set pieces and has been taking them now right for a bit, but we don't have a dead ball guy, like a lot of good teams have in general, and we are used to having at Celtic. We don't have one now. We don't have a guy where it's free kick edge of the box, I know who's taking it, We don't have that now, or even penalties. I was so surprised that Tati took a penalty. What game was that? And was it Hibs or something? I forget what game it was now.
That was a terrible penalty, to be fair. He just, lucky the keeper went the wrong way.
Yeah. So I think that's I hope it's a quality over quantity approach, and I think we're going to see a good bit of that. And we've all kind of referenced it already. Some of that. I think we're going to see some real good Moneyball activity from Celtic in this summer with Barkas maybe moving out, a guy that we brought in. It kind of, his reputation only went south since joining us. That's been repaired and moved on. But there's also other guys that will be coming back into the reckoning for some stage, like Mikey Johnson, Urigidi as well. And I say back into the reckoning, as I say, they'll come in for pre-season, and like what happened at the beginning of this season, Ange obviously made some sort of decisions on them and said, right, you're out and off. And off they went. Montgomery as well at St. Johnstone, by all accounts, has had a good season and is maybe getting a looked at. I don't know, probably doubt it. And it feels like from people that talk to me anyway, maybe Scales is going to go permanently to Aberdeen. So if we can have a mini little experience of what Man City do on a grand scale of we generated 3 million quid out of the subs bench in the reserve list, and then that turns into a boss centre mid now that we didn't have yesterday, then I'd love to see some of that kind of stuff move on as well, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. It's just Ange wants to be aggressive, and Celtic want to be aggressive. If Ange goes, I think Celtic are still going to kind of be in the same kind of mind frame to just kind of be a bit more aggressive in the transfer market and as you say, move these guys on, these guys that have got no chance of making the first team, and then try and build from there. I just hope that everything's kind of done and dusted as of next week, so we know exactly what we're playing with. But it's a funny one because we're going to Japan next month, or is it in July? Sorry, we're in June now, so next month. And it was basically a pre-season made up of obviously the Japanese guys going over, but also Ange going back to Yokohama. Now that might not be the case, but maybe that's why he stays. Or he wanted another trip to Japan. So I don't know. I'm still kind of reeling over the news and trying to digest it as I go, and I can see one tweet and I go, oh, he's staying, and I can see another tweet and go, nah, actually he's away. So I'm just going to be up and down until the cup final, and then maybe he rips off his shirt like Hulk Hogan and just says, I'm staying on his t-shirt or something. That would be the dream.
We're all going to be watching the cup final with such intent, aren't we? In that sense, I was, being at the last game of the season there, I was really watching him like a hawk when he was going around and celebrating, and even the kind of post-matchy bit, when you're in that section, you can see onto the pitch for as long as you're there, really, and if there was any wee tells or anything, because sometimes the Ralston picture, sometimes these kind of things, there's something to read into. but there wasn't really anything. There was nothing much there above the usual, stock photos of the team and the manager and family and friends and all that stuff on the pitch and whatever. But I think this cup final, if we're going to get any on-pitch like tells or any sort of, like I've seen the guys I met at the game, like when he was going around to the fans, he was doing this with his badge, and he was walking around at, for trophy day, he was doing this. But normally, and again, how much am I reading into this or whatever, but I was saying I wanted to see him give it a bit of this, or a wee, something, but it was just a wee, you're in my heart kind of pat. So this cup final is where we see a reaction. I think that's a real, like, tells you what's going on in his mind reaction, so.
Yeah,
above the result in the game, there's that to look forward to, if nothing else.
I spoke to Aaron earlier. Actually, he was too young to remember, or I don't think he was born yet when Martin O'Neill left. But we knew Martin O'Neill was leaving. Sure, like it was in the papers.
Yeah.
So he kind of did he's kind of like walked around handing himself like behind the team and just kind of took in the praise and like. So if you see Ange lingering on Saturday, I think that's your tell. Somebody else I spoke to that kind of knows Ange a wee bit, and got to know him a bit personally, says it was quite out of character at Tynecastle for him to kind of well up a bit. And I had to go back and look at the footage, and I went, actually, he has kind of welled up a bit after we'd like clinched the league title. And said that was a bit out of character for him. So I don't know if the occasions just got to him, or like he knew something that we didn't at the time, and that kind of coincided with Dermot Desmond turning up at Celtic Park, and the picture of it with Ange, obviously it went around social media, so like just to add to the intrigue. But yeah, I think if he lingers that wee bit longer on Saturday, I think we've got our answer. But again, he would still, like, we're talking like we've won the cup by the way, which again I don't like to do. But if we go back to Celtic Park with a treble, maybe say something then. I would imagine he would. I don't think, but the only reason he wouldn't, again, is if he's still not spoken to Spurs, which is it's possible that he's not properly sat down and thrashed out anything.
Yeah, he's in no rush, I suppose, because he will just be focusing on getting the job done, like we've referenced already.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be another eventful couple of days. It's not going to be boring. I can guarantee that much anyway. Aaron, I know you're going for a massive score this weekend. I kind of hope it is something like that. I didn't really factor in how low Inverness have actually finished their season. I kind of assumed Inverness are kind of at the top end of that league and should have been fighting to get promoted. Obviously, finishing sixth, it's not the case. So yeah, I'm quite hopeful, man. We get a nice wee cricket score. It's a good feel-good factor. Lots of different goal scorers, lots of guys earning their medals on the day. Maybe some new prospects coming through, like we mentioned already, Summers and Vata. But yeah, anything else on the game we would want to forecast to see everyone home for?
I just want a typical Ange Ball display in case it's his last game, so he can like look back and remember it fondly, saying that was why he was such a great manager for Celtic. Just fond memories.
Eulogising him. I'm going to start greeting.
That's what it feels like.
I think, like, I'm hoping for kind of like a weird goal from somebody that you don't expect it from like an Alistair Johnston or a Wata, something like that. Even a Greg Taylor, like something like that, if we can get it. Joe Hart, if we're really pushing the boat out. Send him up for the last corner when we're 5-0 up. That would be good.
Post match on Saturday.
If you see that, that's when you know we're getting a new goalkeeper, because that's when you know he knows he's off.
But post match on Saturday.
Speaking of like signs, James Forrest coming on for the last 45 minutes of the game at Celtic Park on Saturday. I forgot to bring that up actually earlier. I thought that was a bit strange. I know he's on a good deal, a long-term deal, but it was weird that he came on for 45 minutes and they're kind of talking up all this testimonial stuff. And I don't know if there's anything in that he might leave in the next couple of months or something like that. But maybe he's just destined to sit there now and get used very, very sparingly. But other than that, no, I have nothing else to. Or maybe Forrest gets a goal on Saturday if he gets on for any period of time, which could happen again. I'd actually quite like to see him get a goal. He's not had like a good season with injuries and stuff like that. If he came on, we were winning 2-3-0, then nothing stopping him.
Yeah. I thought he was pretty poor when he came on though. Didn't take a man on or that. He just kind of done nothing, I felt.
Well, he's not played much at all, has he? He's
First game
That's why I was surprised. I thought maybe a game in the last 20 minutes or something. I thought 5 minutes seemed a bit strange on trophy day. But other than that, as I say, yep, I'm looking forward to the cup final. Right now, anyway. In about 5 minutes, once we come off here, I'll be in a dark room in the fetal position, my phone turned off until such times as Ange, somebody lock down Ange or something and just tell him Tottenham are a wee club and Celtic are much bigger.
On that note, guys, hail, have fun this weekend. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, have fun, obviously. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Right,
take care,
see you later,
guys.
buddy.
Hail,
Yeah,
hail.
geez.